So next I'm going to talk about Greece, and this is where the trips change ever so slightly, more in line with a couple of our other walking trips that we developed some years ago, where you are actually doing a bit of a journey and your focus is slightly more on the culture, I would say, than it is on the walking, because of course you're in northern Greece, and my goodness, is there a lot of culture to see up here. So starts in Thessaloniki and does a clockwise loop around on what is known as the Via Egnatia. The Via Egnatia was a road built by the Romans in the 2nd century BC, connecting Constantinople to Rome by way of northern Greece, Macedonia, and Albania. And it's along some of this route that this particular tour takes you. So you will start in Thessaloniki. Now, Thessaloniki is extraordinary. It has 15 UNESCO World Heritage Sites within the city. Now, when I was told that by our guide, I kind of said, really? If you think that India, with all its beautiful monuments and its amazing landscapes and its size, has 19 in the whole of the country, to think that one city had 15, I was like completely blown away. I couldn't believe it, but it does. And we will see some of them on this trip. You will start with the Rotunda, which was originally built as in 301 AD as a tomb for the Emperor Galerius, but was used as a temple and an Orthodox church as well. It's got some fantastic murals and mosaics in there. You will also visit other UNESCO World Heritage Sites like the Triumphal Arch, the Ottoman White Tower. There's a great museum, and up on a hill, just about a 10-minute walk from our hotel, there's a lovely street of restaurants where it's really quiet and cozy, and the restaurants have musicians and stuff like that, and we'll have our first lovely kind of dinner up there. From there we head west via a place called Palais, which is the birthplace of Alexander the Great, and Vergina, which is where the tomb of his father Philip II is. Both have extraordinarily good museums. We'll have a look around there before we get to one of the highlights of the trip, which is Meteora. Now, they say a photograph can sell a holiday. Well, in this case, it was slightly the other way around, because it was this photograph, or not this actual photograph, but a photograph of the Monasteries of Meteora that piqued my interest for the first time in this region and really made me think, goodness, we really must be doing a trip here. It's an extraordinary place where these amazing sandstone cliffs jut out of the ground and have given the monks these amazing opportunity to build their monasteries in these places, so that they're away from any problems, any invading forces, or the kind of the temptations of the world below. At its peak in the 16th century, there were 24 active monasteries. Now there are 6, and you can visit them, and some of them are very big, like this one, which is the Grand Monastery of Meteora. We go in there, and really the insides of the churches themselves are extraordinary. The frescoes absolutely mind-blowing, illustrating stories from the Bible. We get there by walking. It's about an hour and a half walk up. When we get to the top and we've had a look around, we will then go for a lovely loop walk all the way back down and round into the town, which will take another 2.5 hours, when we will then have a really nice lunch at one of the tavernas outdoors. That's Meteora, absolute highlight. From there we travel to Mestabo, which is a lovely alpine village. We're now into the Pindos Mountain range, which is the focus of this part of the tour. And it's a lovely place. It has an exquisite church with, again, amazing frescoes inside. And believe it or not, it's a ski resort. Now, I didn't realize that Greece had skiing until I did this trip. And that lends itself to some fantastic walking. So we do a lovely kind of 4 or 5 hour walk up into the hills, come all the way back down. We go through some farmland. We see how the agriculture is before we come down to the back into the village, where we stay at this the Kadoji Avarov winery. Now, not only is this a great place to stay, it's also home to one of Greece's best known wines. Located on the edge of the village at about 1,200 meters, its story began in the 1950s when Evangelos Avrov planted Greece's first Cabernet Sauvignon vines on the slopes of Mount Pindos and bottled it in a wine we now know as Katogi Avrov in the cellar of his home. Similarly to Priorat, in the wine production has kind of developed over the last 40 years, really. And again, similar to Priorat, it's grown in some quite difficult places to grow. These are some of the highest vines in Europe. So they are the highest vines in Greece and some of the highest vines in Europe, which means that the amount of wine that they produce or the yield of the grapes is not that high. And we're talking again about 2,000 bottles per hectare. But again, that gives it quite a rich, strong flavor. And of course, it gets the sun as well, which gives it a sweetness as well. So it's very nice wine. They actually do 7 different types, 2 whites, 2 roses, and 4 rosés, and 4 reds. And we do a lovely wine tasting. We do a lovely wine tasting. I'm just going to, there. Sorry, hang on. Oh, going the wrong way. Wine tasting on the top left picture. If you can see that, that's kind of our view down from the bedroom, if you like. And that's where we'll do a lovely wine tasting and a tasting lunch as well to go with it. So that's a real highlight. And after a big 4-hour walk, 5-hour walk, you've earned it. So from there, we head on to the lakeside town of Castoria, a very pretty place with a lovely corniche all the way around the lake, where we'll stay with a lovely couple called Christoph and Christina in their home. And again, just to emphasize, this is a kind of one of the main focuses of these kind of tours, whether it's Dom's in Italy or Isabel's in Pereira in Priorat or Christoph and Christina's in Castoria. By staying in a local house, staying with the local people, getting to know them, you really get to understand the area that you're in. And I think that's so important. Also, of course, you don't have anybody else from outside the group, which kind of keeps us in our bubble, which is really nice. Christoph is an excellent chef, and you will get a fantastic meal here, probably the best meal you're going to have in Greece. The town itself is fascinating, old town. It is home to some 300 odd Byzantine churches. It has a very interesting cave we'll go and look around, and it has a lovely cafe that does a tasting menu of local produce. So we'll do that and sample the local food, again, probably washed down with the local wine. From here, we head into, we're still in the Pindos Mountain range. We go to Nympheo, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Village. We'll go to a bear sanctuary here, where we'll learn about how these bears get brought in from captivity, often being used still as dancing bears and stuff like that, and then they're looked after here. They get brought in from countries all around, from Albania, from Bulgaria, from Macedonia, and looked after here. And we'll go walking in the hills to see where the bear's kind of natural habitat is. And from here, we head to Lake Kirkini, which is where it's a beautiful lake, vast lake. We'll get on a boat, we'll go out and we'll see the pelicans, we'll see the flamingos, and we'll see an extraordinary sight. It's home to 20,000 cormorants, and the cormorants fishing is an extraordinary thing. They swoop down on the lake, and they kind of corral the fish into one area, and then they dive bomb and eat the fish. It's a feeding frenzy, and it's an extraordinary thing to watch. This is a photograph I took. We were lucky enough to see this when we were there, kind of sunset, so we're there at a nice time of day. That evening we go to a lovely restaurant, which is a converted old railway station, where we'll get entertained by local musicians while eating traditional food, before we come back round onto what is the cultural highlight of the trip, at least it was for me, the archaeological site of Felipe, which was the capital of Philip II's Macedonia. It has amazing forum, theatre, temples, basilica, and mosaics. Here you can see the incredible theatre, which is huge. And it's also said that St. Paul visited here in 49 AD and gave his first ever European sermon here. So there we are. And then lastly, we come down back onto the Mediterranean to Cavalla. Cavalla is, again, an old town. The aqueduct is what dominates the town, as you can see here. It was first built by the Romans, added to by the Ottomans. And I don't know if you can see all the crenellated fortress walls all the way around the town. We'll walk up through the old town into the